What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gen Z Money Podcast, where we turn financial peace to your reality. I'm your host, James Bowman, and today's guest, she really brought some really different perspective to this whole wealth building journey. I had on Tara as today's guest, and we go over so many different things. We talk a little bit about crypto, debt payoff, purchasing a home. We just covered so many different topics that I think everyone will find a little bit of value. She talks about this awesome way of creating a little bit of side income for those who have a little bit more time on your hands. So you guys are going to hear about that. I don't want to give too much away because honestly, this interview was phenomenal. I mean, she gave so many great tips that I just think everyone is going to find at least one good thing that they can implement in their life to either increase their income or lower their expenses or adjust their investing approach and so many more. So I really hope you guys enjoy this interview. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Hey, Tara, welcome to the Gen Z Money Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I found you on Instagram and you put out a lot of interesting information that a lot of it I agree with, a lot of it I'm still a lot ignorant on, but you're kind of like all over the place, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to bring you on. Yeah, I wanted to bring you on just to talk about it because a lot of it is interesting, right? And it's all about the conversation. And yeah, I think you're gonna bring a lot of value.
Cool. Well, I hope so.
So Tara, all right, let's go back to little Tara, right? You know, middle school, elementary school, right?
Okay.
How was money talked about and viewed as you grew up?
My parents were very much in the mindset, I think, of we don't have enough for that. They had money. I didn't want for anything, but I also was kind of always told, if you want that, you can work for it and buy it yourself. I think my earliest memory of that was in kindergarten when I wanted this toy out of a catalog, and my parents were just like, well, you can do chores for it and we'll give you $1 every day, and after 2 weeks you can buy this toy. And I think they kind of thought maybe I would, after a day or two, be like, I don't care anymore. Like I don't want the toy that bad. And I worked every single day. They had me help with dishes or set the table or whatever. And I wanted my $1 every day so I could get this toy. And I don't think they realized how much that moment would impact the rest of my life and my attitude towards money of like, if you save it up, if you just, if you really want this one thing and you work for it and you save up, then you can reward yourself with that. I think about that moment a lot, how much it's changed my money, what it is today.
Gotcha. You know what? That's awesome because like a lot of times you don't, as a parent, you don't want to be that parent who gives their child everything they want every time they ask, but you also don't want to be that parent to say no every single time they ask. So
right. No, I agree. And I'm an only child. So I think a lot of people have this stigma that only children are spoiled and they just get everything they want. And that was not my story. I mean, and I didn't want for anything really, but I was told, if I went to the toy store and I wanted something, they were like, yeah, do you have money? And if I did, I then I could kind of say, is it worth it for me to spend all the money that I have to buy this thing? Do I want it that much? Like it really made you question, instead of just saying, Mom, buy that for me. It has it puts a different feeling on money when you're young like that and you have to make those decisions.
And it kind of shows how much you want it, right? Because a lot of times children can be very spontaneous. Like, I want this one day. And then the next day they're like, oh, I'm done with it. I got my use out of it. So
exactly. And it makes you appreciate that thing because you bought it. Like you spent your money on it. I'm going to play with this toy all the time instead of just being like, on to the next, it gave me a deeper appreciation for my belongings as well.
That's awesome. And I think that's really great to learn at such a young age. I mean, you learn to appreciate the things that you work hard for, right? So as you were growing up, tell me a little bit about like, were there any, before you became into the Tara you are today, very financially literate, were you making any drastic bad financial decisions that you kind of had to correct in order to fix your finances?
I've always been super, I don't like to use the word obsessive, but I don't know what other word to use. Like I've always been obsessed with like saving money. My credit score was always important to me. Even like when I first turned 18, like my mom was very much like, don't get a credit card, don't screw this up, like, and I was always really good about it. And I had a moment of weakness with an ex of mine who, he was into real estate, and when I say that, I mean like flipping houses and stuff like that. And he knew all the tricks and how to do this and that. And at the time I wasn't working, but my credit was like excellent. I was in my early 20s and he's like, let's buy a house. And I'm like, I don't have a job. Now this was back, before the housing market collapsed. I was part of that whole thing, where they gave me what's called a no doc loan, where they don't care if they don't want to see documents of income or anything. It's like solely based on your credit. So I got this mortgage that I had no way of paying, and he made promises, oh, I can pay for it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it ended up foreclosing, and destroyed my credit. My life like shattered at that moment, because it was so important to me to have good credit and to have money saved. And it just was complete culture shock to me. Like, what do you mean my credit is in the 500s now and I can't get a loan? I can't even get a credit card. It was a hard lesson to learn, but in a way I'm kind of glad I learned it, because it made me really opened my eyes to like, wow, it's super easy to just throw it all that hard work, throw it away.
So would you say that, because you obviously had an appreciation for your credit score and your savings before that, but going through such a terrible thing like a foreclosure is one of the worst financial things you can go through. Did it make you value your credit and your savings even more coming out of that?
Yeah, I think it did. It also made me a lot more protective of it. Because at the time I wasn't investing. I was just a saver, put it in the bank. And I didn't realize at the time, and I didn't realize until very recently, actually, that that's a bad idea, like to just put money in the bank. You're not growing your money. It's just sitting there losing value. So, but because of that moment in my life of the foreclosure, I was very much like, no one can have my money, like keep it in a protected space. And to me, like investing and things like that didn't seem protected. It seemed too risky. And I didn't want to lose, what I had gained.
Gotcha. And I want to put a little caveat on something you said. You said that putting your money in the bank was a bad idea. Let's go ahead and transition that language a little bit, because there are a lot worse ideas you could do, right, with your money.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But saving your money in the bank was not the best idea.
That's,
right?
yeah, that's a better way of saying it. You're right. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having your money in the bank or in a savings account. In fact, you should have some money in there for emergencies. I guess I wish I would have known at the time what I know now about passive income and compounding interest. You think you're getting a great savings rate or interest rate when you have it in a savings account, and it's like, yeah, it's just sitting there losing value, especially with this inflation.
Whew,
So yeah. So yeah, I mean, and when I say recently, I mean within the past 3 years, I realized I got to get my money out of the savings account, and put it in stocks. I started investing probably 12 years ago. And for me, so for all that time, I still had a huge chunk of my money in savings, and I was going, and, because I felt safe there. And now I realize, I could have been growing that money, investing it in the right place. And that's key. I lost a lot of money in stocks as well, because I was investing in bad, bad things to invest your, put a big chunk of money in something that's going to get you rich quick. And that's not the way. Sure, it works sometimes, but more often than not, you're going to lose all your money that way. So that's why I think I was a little bit scared too. I wanted to make sure my money stayed in the bank where it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, Joe said something awesome on episode 16 of the podcast. He said, if you have your money in the bank, you are safely getting your butt kicked, right? Inflation is going rapidly. And it's, of course, in today, we're over 7% inflation. So having money in the bank is nice. It's safe, but you are safely getting your butt kicked if you are not investing to try and beat inflation.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it was funny, man.
Absolutely.
He said it.
Yeah.
Okay, Tara. So let's go back a little bit. So you get this foreclosure, your credit has boom done. Yeah. What did you do from that point on? Because that sounds like it was the turning point. So what did you do from that point on to get back on a climb in credit score, net worth, and things like that?
At first I felt really defeated, like it's really easy to go down with your credit. I mean, so fast it happened. And to build it back up, it's like this horrible climb, like you're climbing Mount Everest, and I remember getting approved for one credit card. Is it called Credit One maybe? And it's like a credit building credit card company that will, they'll approve you for like $500 and, and then they'll help you build your credit back up with that. But it was very slow going. I got that. And then I had all these credit cards still with balances that I had to pay. So I made the minimums, and as soon as one got paid off, my account would get closed. Like they weren't playing with me. So it was really frustrating for many years. And also, I think it was just mostly time, I think it's about 7 years till your credit will drop something negative like that. So it was just a long time of me trying every little thing I could, like with that one credit card, and just trying to get back on track. And then eventually, and I get letters in the mail because credit cards and all this stuff, like it was overwhelming. And I just kind of had to wait until all of that went away, because I wasn't in a place financially to be able to just say, here's the money, sorry about screwing you over with credit cards and things. So I think time was my biggest thing that helped me. But also, and I had little ways, like I did buy a house then after that by myself. I broke up with that guy and moved on, but he did teach me a few things that I, took with me with the real estate. So I had this one house that I went to look at, and I really liked it. It was like, it's like a row home. But it was good for me. I was single, and it would have worked, but I just didn't have any kind of money or any kind of credit to be able to get another mortgage. And I just kept thinking about it. And I'm also big on affirmations and manifesting. I don't think I really was at the time, but I look back and I see how my focusing on wanting that house really, I think, brought it to fruition for me. But I would drive home from work and I'd go past it. It was kind of out of my way, and I'd drive past it every day and just see it's still for sale. And I'd stalk it online, and it was still for sale. And the one day I drove past, there was a sign on the door, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's a sheriff's sale. So I ran over and I looked at the door, and it was something about a tax sale. And I knew that meant that the people who owned it were in trouble. They couldn't pay their taxes, whatever. So I called the realtor right then and I said, will these people work with me? And she's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you want to do? And I said, will they rent to own for me? She goes, I think they will. So, what I found out happened is someone owned all these properties on the same street. He died. And the woman, his wife, had no idea what to do. She got a financial advisor who ended up embezzling her money and taken off. So she was like stuck with all these properties. She couldn't pay the taxes. It was a mess. Unfortunately for her, but fortunately for me. So I said, I will pay. This is what I'll pay monthly if she'll rent to own it to me until I can get my credit up enough to get a mortgage. And it actually worked out. And she did it, and I rented to own for about a year. So that didn't help my credit because she's not reporting it to anybody. But it did help me kind of get on track. My parents did help by co-signing for me to get a car. So me making car payments, that started to build my credit. And eventually, after about a year, that realtor came back to me and said, I have some bad news here. The properties that were all linked together with your home were bought by a man in Texas, and he may take your house because you're just renting it, really. And I was like, oh gosh, she talked to him and told him, this girl pays early every month. She's been amazing. Will you continue to hold this mortgage for her? And he said, yeah. So he actually gave me a mortgage. So we went through settlement and everything, and I bought the house, and he's still to this day holding my mortgage on that property. And which is pretty cool. So I don't have, it's never been reported in my credit. But I do have this rental property now because when I met my husband, we moved in together, and then we could rent my place out. So it all ended up working out. And it's kind of cool because you can do things without your credit being tip top. You just kind of have to figure out, a way, your path to get to that. And I did, and it worked out for me. And now my credit's back up to in the 800s. So I think time, patience, and really knowing how to work the system in a way that benefits you, you can pretty much do anything with your credit being bad.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's a great story, because there are going to be people who are in the position you were in where they get foreclosed on and they have to start from zero. And a couple things you said, right? A lot of I'm not going to say the problem because it's not really a problem, but the dilemma with credit is a lot of it is time-based, right? So
Yeah.
you mentioned this 7-year requirement for this foreclosure to drop off your credit report. And that's something that you're not going to get around, right? It's there, you have to deal with it, but you have to make the best out of it, and you have to do what you can around it. So how do you do it? Of course, you get good with your credit card, you're paying it off on time, and that's reporting positively. You get your car loan you mentioned that your parents co-signed for, and that's also impacting. So it's not going to bring you up to where you are today in 800,
Right.
but it's the pattern that you created for yourself of on-time payments, of being trustworthy with finances again, that got you back to where you are today. So I just want to point that out, guys. It's like Tara's a prime example of, it's kind of like working out. Like, you go to the gym one day and you won't see results. But if you go repeatedly for years at a time, you're going to see massive gains looking at before and after. And you're a prime example of that. Another thing is, like, asking the question. So many people are afraid to ask questions. If you did not go up to that door, read that sign, and call the realtor and just ask, what can they do? You won't get anything if you don't ask for it. So I love that. I'm always telling people, like, don't give yourself the answer, right? Let someone else give you the answer. Always ask the question, because you'll be surprised, right? The same way you ask for the rent to own, you ask the guy, like, will you carry the mortgage? And look at you now. Now you have basically a seller financed deal and a rental property. And of course, it's not getting reported to your credit, which can be a good thing, right? Because your debt to income
Can be, yeah.
Yeah. And now you have a relationship with this guy. If he starts selling off properties, guess what? Hey, you thought about selling any property? So you have so much going for yourself right now, at least in the story that you're telling, just by starting with asking a question. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that, but you're right. I mean, I could have saw that sign on the door and just said, oh, it's going to tax sale, and walked away, and lost it. And yeah, asking the question was huge.
Yeah, it really changed your trajectory. At least from me looking out, it completely changed your trajectory. So, all right. So now the story is so much brighter, right? You you own your own home, your credit score is finally recovered, you get married, you're in such a nice financial situation. Now it's a rental property. Where well let's start from the basics. Where did you start learning about like knowing like because you okay, so you talked about saving and not investing. So at some point you had to learn about investing. So where
Yeah.
did that start?
So my husband my boyfriend at the time, um, invested in the stock market. It wasn't like a full-time thing for him. He wasn't a day trader or anything, but he knew about it. His dad taught him. And I remember him telling me, and I just thought, wow, that is so intimidating. Like, how can you, like, I think there's this stigma for people who aren't familiar with investing that it's really hard and it's for, elite people and it's, but it's really not. And I didn't know that at the time, but he's like, look, this is how it works. Let me show you. So he taught me the basics. I actually invested the job I was at, I left and I had a 401k that I didn't even realize I had. So I actually invested some of that money and I ended up losing all of it because of bad investments. But I got a taste of like, oh, I get it. Like it's not hard. So yeah, he taught me a lot and I learned a lot from, listening to his dad talk about it as well. And then from there, I've sort of just done my own research. A lot of stuff I just Google, what does this mean? What does that mean? I use TD Ameritrade for my trading platform, and they have excellent resources on training and just teaching you the basics. Not too long ago, I learned how to sell covered calls, and I totally just learned that from TD's. They had like a video training. Took me like 45 minutes, and I was like, oh, I get it. Like it seems so intimidating. Like you need to have some kind of degree in mathematics or something. It's really not that hard. You just have to learn. And if you're willing to learn and take the time to figure out what the terms mean, it's like anything, you're going to learn how to sail a boat. I don't know the first thing about sailing a boat, but I know there's all this stuff I can learn and it's out there. You just, you go and you learn. So yeah, I think if it wasn't for my husband, I probably still wouldn't even know anything about the stock market. So I have him to thank for that. Definitely. But now I'm so, I don't work anymore. So I'm so much more involved with learning about that he's kind of like, you're doing great. You take care of it. Like he doesn't even bother with it. He's just like, yeah, you take the reins.
So let's talk about that. You talked about losing a big portion of your money from your 401k. Let's talk about that a little bit. What were you trying to do? Were you trying to day trade? Were you trying to deal with calls and puts or?
No, the amount of money I had was small for 401k. Like I said, I didn't even know I had one. It was just what the employer was contributing. Like I didn't know anything about a 401k at the time. I had no idea what that meant. I mean, I knew it was for retirement, and I was like 25 and I'm like, who cares? That's like so far away, which I think is an attitude a lot of people have. It's not that far away. So yeah, so I think I got about $3,500 in that account. And I was like, oh, cool, free money. I didn't know I had. I didn't know about a rollover, so I didn't do that. I just took the money out, paid the penalty. Mistake number one. Got the check, and my husband said, let's put it in a stock account and you can start with that. Okay. So I did that. I opened my TD account and I put it in there, and I went all in on the company he worked for at the time, because it was like a penny stock. So I'm like, oh, I get so many shares and all that. Well, it was a penny stock for a reason, because the company went under shortly after, and poof, all my money disappeared. So that was my first trade with the stock market. So it hurt, but I think it just gave me that taste of like, okay, yeah, I screwed up, but this isn't very hard. Very much like your credit score, it's very easy to lose all your money. But it's also pretty easy to make money if you do it right.
So you mentioned a couple things I just want to hit on for people who
Mhm.
may not understand. The first thing you talked about was a rollover. And I just want to emphasize for the audience that if you have a qualifying retirement account with an employer, such as a 401k, 403b, or other things along those lines, the IRS has rules that you can roll over that amount to another qualifying plan with no penalties.
Mhm.
You could face a tax burden depending on what type of rollover, which of course you can consult your financial advisor on. But the point is to avoid the penalty, which you also mentioned the penalty that I want to say it should be 10% penalty.
I thought it was like 20, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was a
Yes,
lot.
I think it differs, but I know
Yeah.
a big portion of it is 10% penalty plus taxes. So let's just
Okay,
say
that
you
makes
said you
sense.
had 3,000, 10% would go towards a penalty, and then you'd also pay taxes on that. So that's why it's an awesome thing to roll over. That way you're not facing penalties. And in a lot of case scenarios, if you do it properly, you also won't have a tax burden. So I just want to clarify those things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Another thing that I don't want to fault you on, because I like giving this advice to people. You mentioned that you put your money into this penny stock, but it wasn't just any penny stock, right? It was a company that your husband worked for.
Right.
So you know at least what you're investing in. And I think
Right.
that's a big part of telling beginning investors, like, don't invest in something you don't understand.
Right.
Unfortunately, even though you understood this company, your husband worked there, and you had skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
It still went to zero. So it doesn't completely negate the risk, but I would say you didn't just put your money into something you didn't know and lost it. And
Right.
that's why diversification is so important, because you know a lot of things, right? You know Apple, you know Microsoft, you probably use these things on a daily basis. So I guess you weren't concerned about diversification at that time, but you did invest in
No.
something you knew about. So
Yeah, and I was so very green. This was all like new and exciting, like, ooh, I knew so little about what I was doing that I just sort of was like, oh, well, I'll just take, this advice, like, let's just put it in your company kind of thing. Like, okay, why not? It's money I didn't know I had. So it hurt to lose, sure, but it wasn't so painful that, it wasn't like all I had either, so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I put all my money into it. Was just sort of bonus money that I discovered. So
yeah,
either
and
way,
you took a
I could
risk.
have done much smarter things with it.
Yeah, you took a risk. And
I did.
I always commend people who take risks, because if you don't, like, it sounds harsh, but I would have rather you lost the money in that company and learned from it
Learned a
than to
lesson.
just
Yeah.
have it in a savings account earning absolutely nothing and not learning anything in the process. So
Yeah. Agreed.
I like looking at the positive. You know what I mean? I don't like all the
You
negative.
do.
Yeah, I love looking at the positive, because I think every failure is a lesson learned. And I want to point
Absolutely. I
those
mean,
out.
I've lost money in other things too, and they all hurt and they all leave a scar, if you will, that I'll remember, like, nope, I'm not going to do that again because this is what happened. How can I do it differently? How can I do something that, you know, I mean, I've put my money in stocks that we thought, oh, yeah, this is like the next big, the next Amazon, like it's, you got to really do your research and understand what you're getting involved in. Don't just, listen to something that someone said on Reddit or uh, on Instagram or whatever. It's really important to know what you're putting your money in, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, with that being said, so you talked about getting a lot of your investing advice from your husband and his father to start off.
Yeah.
Going forward, how do you differentiate between what good knowledge is? Because you just mentioned like going on Reddit probably isn't the best financial advisor, right? We can agree on that. Now they might people are making money from it, guys. I want to be very clear. There are people making tons and tons of money off of it, but not everyone, right?
Right.
They're very few and far in between. So how do you differentiate between getting good advice from the get rich quick type of schemes?
I guess experience is number one. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's something that I get a lot of like little pop-ups sometimes on websites, investing websites that'll say like Investopedia or something like that, a .com that is just sort of, boop, here's the next big pot stock, and boop, here's the, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to read that because it's probably, they have all these, oh, it's going to double or triple or, in the next however many months. Yeah, it sounds too good to be true. I'm not going to read into that much further. I think it's not until, again, very recently that I realized that, and it's like just such a simple concept, like just invest in good companies, period. The Amazons, the Apples, that kind of stuff that has like a cult following that's not going to go away. Those are the companies, that you want to, don't get involved in the startups that you've never heard of from China or wherever. It's just like, sure, they could go crazy, but usually when they do, they fall right back down just as fast, and you miss it. So you want to find something that's steadily goes up over time, to put your money in, not these big huge volatile stocks that you could just lose your ass on. I think a lot of it is just, it's just kind of being a little skeptical. I kind of relate it to like pyramid schemes. They tell you all the great things, but underneath all that, you have to kind of do your own research and say, let me think about it, let me look into it, and sometimes you get burned, but it is another learning opportunity when that happens. But yeah, experience is the biggest thing. I think you just kind of, you make mistakes as you go along, and you figure out what the real ones, what the real deal is, and what the scams are, or the,
Get rich quicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the, be skeptical, don't be gullible, right? So
Right.
let me ask you this, just your personal opinion. When you're going into an investment or something you might invest some money into, do you go in prepared to say no, or do you go in hoping to say yes? It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
It is a hard one because, and that's interesting because I'm the yes. I go into it wanting to say yes, and my husband's the one goes into it wanting to say no. He's the devil's advocate in most of the things I bring up. He's very, well, what about this? Did you think about that? Like and I don't want to say he's like negative, but he's the one who brings me back down sometimes. Let's think about this on the earth level here. So, and that can get frustrating sometimes because I'm like, no, this is going to be great, and he's like, I don't really know. So I don't know. It's a tough one, and I think he's kind of taught me to be a little more guarded with things that I see. Just kind of, I get excited about stuff, and I do want to go in with the yes, let's do it. But yeah, and then I hear him in the back of my head going, well, did you think about this? What are, how much money do they make? Are they in debt? Are they, so it's like, yeah, okay, let's look at that stuff first before we go jumping the gun here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very well balanced, because that's how me and my wife are. I'm very skeptical. Like, I go into anything prepared to say no, and you have to kind of convince me to say yes. And of course, I say yes often, but you have to convince me first. And my wife, she goes in, all you gotta do is say hey, and she's like, let's do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, she's a lot more optimistic, and we balance each other out. And it sounds like you
Right.
and your husband do the same, where your husband balances out your optimism with some skepticism or
Pessimism.
pessimism. Yeah, there it is. There
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
Okay. So Tara, um so what asset classes are you choosing to invest in right now? Like what is kind of your overall portfolio consist of?
We have a lot. Well, we we've been leaning towards, we do like a lot of ETFs now. We don't really do mutual funds, but they're similar. Um, just because it gives you that diversification like instantly. So you have, like the S&P is our big one, where we put most of our money right now. And that is a new thing we've been doing. It is something I've picked up from Instagram. There is tons of great advice out there. It's just knowing the difference between the good advice and the scammy advice. But that is something I took away. The S&P has gone up since it was started. It's just always gone up. Yes, it comes down, but overall the market goes up. So we've been putting a lot of our money into S&P index funds. We also do some clean energy ETFs. We believe in that, the future of that. So we have a couple of those. Real estate is another one. We have a one or two REITs in our portfolio, and then we do have a small. I have a small portfolio of some crypto. And I say because it's our money, but my husband is still very skeptical of the crypto world. He doesn't really understand it. I don't really understand it, to be honest. But I definitely understand it a little. I put a little more thought into it and a little more research than he has. So I have more confidence in it, and he's still, on the pessimistic front of that. But it is a very small portion, maybe 1% of our overall portfolio.
That was
And then
actually
as
one of
well
my
as,
next questions. Yeah.
yeah, as well as that, we have a blockchain ETF. And that it's like kind of a running joke. Like that's my one holding that I'm like, don't worry about it. Like he's like, look at it, it's going down. We should get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. Because I just think blockchain is the future, and that's like, you can't change my mind. So I'm just going to stay in that, and he's worried about it. And I say, just don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't worry about it. Long term, don't worry about it. But yeah, I think just ETFs are our biggest thing. And the S&P is my new favorite, go-to. If we have extra money, that's where it's going.
Yeah, and I love the S&P 500. And the only real difference for the listeners between the ETF and the mutual fund is the ETF, if the market is open and you buy it, it buys instantly. Whereas a mutual fund or an index fund, if you purchase it, it will purchase at the closing of the market. So that's what she meant by it's instantaneous. If you buy it at 9 a.m., you'll actually own it at 9 a.m. But if you buy it at 9 a.m. as a mutual fund or as an index fund, it won't buy until the market closes. So that's the only real difference between them. They have very, very similar fees if they're the same type of ETF or mutual fund.
Yeah, I know some mutual funds, you need like a minimum purchase, it has to be $10,000. Some of them have a fee like write off like $50 to buy it, like a commission. I don't, and you can't watch it like throughout the day as a mutual fund, which I like to do, and if that is something that worries people, is watching the fluctuations, mutual funds are for you, because you don't have to, you can't see them. You just see what the closing number was and move on with your day.
Yeah, I like that thank you for bringing that up, because I completely forgot about, they do have a lot of mutual funds and some index funds do have minimum purchases and other fees associated. So you're the first guest that's come on to say that they invest in crypto. And I've talked about it in the past that like, I think crypto is very speculatory. So I personally don't call it an investment, but the fact that it is you said it makes up about 1% of your overall portfolio.
Mhm.
You know, it kind of seems as though you're not relying on it, but you're gonna ride the wave, but you're not
Yeah.
gonna rely on it. Now, the blockchain ETF would be different because that's kind of the whole. It's when you say the blockchain ETF, I kind of think of that as like an S&P 500 for cryptocurrency, NFTs, Web
Right.
3.0, metaverse, all that
Yeah, you're really
crazy.
diversifying in that sector.
Exactly. So it's kind of like you'll put more marbles on the ETF blockchain than you will on actual independent cryptocurrencies or things that are on the blockchain. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't see a problem with anything you're doing. I mean, obviously it's working for you, right? So who am I to even pass judgment? Like it's absolutely working. Like I'm not gonna, put all your business out there, even though you do it. I'm not gonna put your net worth
Yeah.
out there that you have on your Instagram, but it's obviously working for you, right? And
Yeah.
obviously you have the right level of skepticism and you're not just willy-nilly the next TikTok you see, you're not putting your portfolio into that.
No, and I mean, and I am very careful as to which crypto I get into. Bitcoin that everyone's heard of Bitcoin. Has everyone heard of Ethereum? Probably not. Has everyone heard of Cardano? Probably not. So I have a little bit in all of those, but if crypto collapses and just disappears tomorrow and is no longer a thing, the amount of money I have in there, I won't miss it. And that's kind of the way I want to keep it. I don't want to put so much money in because it is so new, it is so unpredictable. Anything can happen. And I'm banking on, I'm betting on that it does great and that it's the next currency, but I'm not willing to put everything into it. It's too risky. So if I can ride a wave up, great. But if not, I'm not gonna be homeless or anything.
Yeah, but I think we all have that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. And
Definitely.
so you're satisfying that FOMO, saying, look, I got my toe in the water, I
Right.
feel the temperature. And so you are satisfying that. So what
Yeah.
would you say to the person who is kind of betting the farm on the whole blockchain and crypto, hoping that that's going to make them a cajillionaire? Because we hear those stories all the time, right?
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
bought Bitcoin in 2012 and now I'm a trillionaire. You hear this stuff all the time. So what would you tell that person to kind of talk them off the ledge so they can start building long-term wealth?
That's a great question. And I feel like people who've already bet the farm, so as you said, on crypto, I think it would fall on deaf ears anyway. But yeah, I mean, I would try to in a way that is not preachy, just kind of be like, I hope you understand that this is such a new sector. And I think anyone who is involved in crypto understands the volatility of it. It's I've never seen anything like it. One day Bitcoin's at 60,000, the next day it's at 29, and you're like, whoa. So if they have the stomach for that, I mean, good for them. But as far as investing everything into crypto, I would never recommend anybody do that. Um, I don't know how to talk someone down from that, because if they've already made the decision, I mean, they've made the decision. But yeah, I think if someone, I have had friends say to me, oh, like, how do I get involved in Bitcoin? Like, listen, I know you don't know the first thing about investing. So the last place you should be starting is crypto. So, and I've told people that, like, let's try something a little more baby step. Then we can talk about crypto, but it's just too volatile for people who don't understand volatility. I've heard horrible stories of people who, lost everything when Bitcoin fell, years ago, and they've committed suicide. I mean, it's just, you don't, nothing is worth your life, so don't put everything you have into something you don't really understand.
Exactly. And we're saying this as if it just pertains to crypto. Like this pertains to absolutely every type of investing. You know, you
That's
always want
true.
to have an emergency fund. You always want to
Absolutely.
have, you know, a rainy day fund. So you wouldn't put all of your money into real estate if you're a real estate investor. You wouldn't put all of your money into the stock market if you're a stock market investor. So it's not just to crypto, right? But it seems as though
Correct.
crypto is the main place people are doing it, right? Because of the such high reward.
Hmm. Yeah, but with that high reward comes that high risk. So I don't know. It's just, at my age, I'm not willing to take big risks. Like when I first started out, I took a lot of big risks. Someone said to us, "Oh, you're young, you can still take risks." And I kind of wish that they never said that to us, because we took too many risks thinking, "Oh, we have time," and we lost money. It's not guaranteed, especially if you are panicky. Like we've many times years ago, things would drop, sell it, and you lose your money, and then 3-4 months later it's back up way above where you bought it the first. So it's just, you really got to have the term I people use, diamond hands. You got to have that self-control to say, yeah, it's going to go down, but if you're in a good quality company or a good quality S&P index fund, it's going to have red days. Sure. Everything does. We're going to go through bear markets and recessions and, but if you're in this for the long term, nobody, shouldn't say nobody, but very few people get rich quick. It's a long term, you got to have your sights set on 20-30 years from now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I will say I am guilty of that also, because I started investing into the stock market in 2020 or 29, the end of 2019. So I had my Roth IRA. I maxed it out for 2019. Then I maxed it out early in 2020. I'm like, I'm gonna put all my money in. This is when I learned about index funds and stuff like that. Of course, in March of 2020, boy, oh boy, did we take some hard hits. And every single thing I had absorbed, all of the information I had absorbed up to that point was don't sell, buy more, don't sell, buy more, don't sell, buy more. And when that 7% in one day drop hit, and then the stock market closed, because of course it has the little surge protector feature, right. I almost did. I was my finger was on the sell button. Like, I need to get out of this. I'm losing so much money. And this, Of course, this was my first roller coaster experience. And luckily I didn't. And I'm so glad looking back. And unfortunately, I didn't have a professional in my corner to talk me off the ledge. It was kind of just me and YouTube, right? And so I almost fell victim to that mentality. Like, I got to get out of this. It's too volatile. I'll sell now and then buy when it drops lower.
Right.
But luckily I did not. And so if there's people out there who don't have that type of self-restraint, just realize, like, the fear, all of us have the fear, right? Even if you have a financial advisor, they're afraid too that it's going to drop lower, but it's not the fear that should dictate what you do. It's the long-term view and the discipline to say, okay, I'm going to ride the wave. I'm going to look at what's happened the last 100 years, all of the dips, and I'm going to trust it. And as we all know, not selling at that time, it recovered very, very quickly, and it's higher than before.
Right. So, and if you had the money to buy, I mean, no one can predict the bottom or the top, and that's why I'm such a huge advocate of dollar cost averaging. When it dropped like that, I mean, as long as we've been investing, we were like, oh no, and we were a little distracted at the time because we were in the hospital having a baby. But I remember sitting in that hospital room and my husband's looking at his phone going, oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is so bad. And I said, we should be buying stuff. And he's like, yeah, what do you want to buy? We saw the hit that all the travel industry took. So we decided to buy, I think we got into Hilton, American Airlines, stuff like that took a huge hit, and we profited. And this was not a long-term investment strategy for us. We just wanted to do some trades, maybe hold them for a couple months, and that's what we did. They went up X amount and we just got out. And it's really hard to train yourself when you see this long candle of red on your chart to say, now I should be buying, because your gut feeling is, I got to get out of this because my money is going down, 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 down. And you just, it really is just like, you have to train yourself to say, no, it's on sale and I need to buy it and bring my costs, which is up here, down a little bit. My cost basis is coming down every time I buy when I'm in the red. So, because eventually, if you are in the right companies, it is going to come back.
Yeah. And I for those who do not know what dollar cost averaging is, do you mind explaining that just super quick?
Yeah. So it's like, if you buy, let's say I have VU, S&P Vanguard fund, then I have $10,000 in it and it does a little dip. I just buy some and it will actually bring, so if I own, let's just round numbers, I know this isn't real, but I own it at $100 a share, and I buy some at $80 a share, it's going to bring my cost down to like 90. And then, so you're just constantly adding to your position, whether it's up or down. That way you're kind of averaging out your cost basis, the amount of money that you own the stock at, so that when it keeps climbing, your average is, safer, rather than buying, at the top, all your money in at the top, you just average it in over time.
Yeah. So it'd be like, if you plan to put in $12,000 a year, instead of just putting in 12,000, you'll just put in $1,000 every single month. So if it's gone down, you can buy more shares, but if it's gone up, you buy a little bit less, but it ends up averaging out over long term. So that's what I'm a big fan of, dollar cost averaging. I put in my same amount every single month. It's automated. I don't even think about it. So big fan of it.
Yeah, and that's how 401ks work. I mean, it just comes out of your paycheck, goes in there, and you're averaging your cost all the time. So,
which everybody should be doing, by the way. Don't listen to those 401ks or evil people, because they are awesome. No. They are awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're getting an employer match. Take advantage of that. That's free money.
Oh yeah, we preach it all the time, Tara. Preach it all the time. So, Tara, we know that all successful people set goals for themselves, right? You, for example, I love your example of driving by the house every single day, because that was a goal, to live in that house. And even if you couldn't go inside, even if you couldn't do whatever, just visualizing it has brought you so far, and you ended up owning it. What are some of the short-term goals that you wish to accomplish within the next 6 months to a year?
So since the pandemic, I actually left my job so I could stay home with my son. And I hate it. Like, I shouldn't say that. Let me back up. I don't hate it. I love it. I love that I get to spend all this time with my son. It's amazing. But I hate that I don't have a paycheck coming in. It's always just been like part of my identity to contribute monetarily. And I feel like I'm not doing that. And my husband will say, oh my God, you contribute every day. You are raising our son. There's nothing more you can do. But I just like having that feeling of money coming in. So I've been doing, surveys and focus groups and things like that to just get a little bit of cash in. So my short-term goal has been to take that money that I've been making and try to fully fund our Roth IRAs with that. And I'm getting there. I'm doing pretty well, actually. So I think I'm on track to do that. And that is just so important to me, to have that little feeling of like, I'm helping this family financially to get to our end goal, which is to retire early. Because I feel like if I were working, we know now that we can live off just my husband's paycheck. So all the money I can bring in is just bonus money that we can invest. And it hurts me to be like, I'm missing out on like a whole paycheck that I could be investing. But this little bit that I'm doing makes me feel really good. So that's my goal short term, is to try to fund our IRAs with that extra, that side hustle that I'm doing.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into that, because I think that's a very awesome and very creative source of income. Can we dive a little bit deeper into that? So you're completing surveys and focus groups in order to, and they basically pay you. Is that about right?
That's right. It's kind of like, and this is another thing I kind of discovered on Instagram, where someone just happened to post like, oh, I made X amount of dollars, $20 this month on this survey app. And I was like, let me look into that. And then it just snowballed into, well, now I have 2 survey apps. Well, now I have 4 survey apps. And then I'm like doing surveys all day on my phone. And I was making maybe $200-300 a month doing that. But I'm like this all day looking at my phone doing surveys. And my husband's like, hello, like, what are you doing over there? And I realized it was sort of just like consuming my life. And I was there, but I wasn't really present, So I thought there's got to be another way. And I don't even know what made me like think, I don't know if I read something somewhere or someone mentioned that they do it, but I heard the term focus group and I thought, yeah, people do that. People watch TV shows like a pilot and give a feedback, or they try a product and get, like, I see it all the time. Like, oh, I got this vacuum for free because I tried it out. How do you do that? So I just Googled focus groups and I came back with probably a list of like 10 different websites. I narrowed it down to 2 of them that I really like. And I've been doing that since the middle of December. And I've probably made about close to $3,000 since then, just doing, kind of like what we're doing right now, just sitting on my laptop. They show me a website that they're working on, or a label for a product. And I just sit there and tell them what I think about it, and they pay me. So it's like kind of like socialization for me too, because I don't get out much. And I have someone I can talk to for an hour, and basically there's no wrong answers. I just tell them what I think, and they take that for what it's worth, and they say, here's $100. So it's like, I advertise that, I feel like, on my feed a lot, and I'm not trying to get any, I'm just trying to help other people realize that there's like easy money out there to be made. And like sometimes I'll just like turn my laptop off after a focus group and go, that, like, I don't believe it. Like, I don't believe they just paid me to just tell them what I think. And it's not, I've made between $25 and $150 for like, couple, like, no more than an hour of my time. So it's just like, it's almost too good to be true some days, but I'm like, whatever, if they're going to pay me to sit here and talk at them, I'll talk at them all they want.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I guess the funny part is like, people give their opinion all the time on social media for free. So like, you could get paid by people to give your opinion. So like, why wouldn't you? So,
and that's where I'm at. Like, I feel like people kind of, maybe I'm imagining it, but I tell people about them online, and I feel like they're probably just rolling their eyes at me like, who cares? Like, no, you don't get it. Like, it's so easy. It's too easy.
do you have any survey apps or focus group websites off the top of your head that maybe the listeners, if they want to make an extra, $100, $200 a weekend or so, that they can maybe do that?
Yeah, respondent.io is my favorite. They pay cash through PayPal. And userinterviews.com is my other one that I use. Now, they mostly pay through gift cards. Some will do PayPal, some will do Amazon gift cards specifically, but most of them are just like a gift card that you can choose from, like hundreds of gift cards, like anything you can think of, which, yeah, it's not money in my pocket, but it kind of is, because I can get a Target gift card and go buy diapers instead of spending cash. So it's a yin yang kind of thing.
But it's better than nothing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, guys, I'm going to be linking those in the show notes. If that's something you guys are interested in to make a little bit of extra money, I mean, it sounds awesome. And all you're dedicating is your time. So if you have time to sit down and watch your favorite Netflix show, or if you have time to sleep an extra 6 hours a day and you want to make the extra money and you need the extra money, this is definitely a profitable way to spend your time.
Yeah.
So I love that. So what are some of your long-term goals that you hope to accomplish within the next 5 to 10 years? And what does the finish line look like for you, Tara?
My long-term goal, my biggest one right now, is debt-free. And we don't have a lot of debt. Really, it's just our mortgages, which on our main home and our rental. So those are my main focus right now, is to pay those off. So because those are our biggest expenses. And I feel like once we don't have a mortgage anymore, my husband, wouldn't have to work full time. And we could do a lot more. We'd have a lot more time, a lot more freedom. So those are my big ones right now. And we're focusing solely on the rental right now. And I can hear people, why are you doing that? Your tenants pay your mortgage. I get that. My interest rate on that is high because it is held by someone privately. And we considered refinancing, but at the rate we're paying it off, it just, I don't think it makes any sense to do that. So we just want to get it off the books. And we are on track to do that within about 2 years. But every kind of extra bit of money that comes in, my husband's bonus or whatever, we throw it at that mortgage. Because once that's paid off, then that mortgage payment is more income for us that we can then throw on this house, on this mortgage, or invest. And quite honestly, we'll probably invest that money because the return rate is going to be so much higher than the interest rate we're paying, because we did refinance this house. So we do have a pretty low interest rate and we're due to pay that off in 15 years anyway. So that I'm not super worried about, but if we have extra, we'll probably try to pay this one down faster. But long-term, my goal is to have nobody sending me a bill,
I really want to emphasize this, right? I think the concept of debt freedom is so underrated. I don't think, not many people have ever felt what it feels like to have pure debt freedom, to have no bill coming in the mail. I felt it for an extremely short amount of time before I started getting mortgages, right? But I paid off all of our cars, all of our credit cards were done. Mm-hmm. And there was a period of time, I want to say it was 6 months, where there was nothing. There was no bills coming in, no debt payments. The amount of stress, the amount of peacefulness a person can get from that is daunting. And I think because not many people have really felt that, especially in our society where debt is so easily obtainable, not many people have felt that peace that it gives you. So I want to say, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be debt free. At some point in my life, of course, I'm a big real estate guy and I use mortgages to buy rental properties. But at some point, I'm going to pay off those rental properties, right? I want to be debt free. And then if I choose to go back into debt after that, that's between me and the banks. But I have felt it, and it's a great feeling, and it's super duper underrated. And the only people who are just Tara, you should never pay off your mortgage. How dare you? That is mathematical uncertainty. All that crap. Those are people who have never felt what it feels like to be debt free. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's you saw I smiled when you said 2 years your rental property be paid off. That's phenomenal. You're gonna own a home that you were driving by and you had no. All you had was faith that you're going to get it and you're going to own it free and clear.
Yep.
So yeah.
Feels good.
To those people who, yes, is it mathematically slower building wealth? Yes. Who cares, right? Personal finance is 90% behavior, 10% math. So the amount of discipline it takes to pay off that much debt is astonishing. So it's such a great goal. I'm so glad to hear that is your goal. So, all right, Tara, I'm going to get off my rant, right? So we're going to go into the final questions of the podcast. And of course, I ask these same questions to every single podcast guest. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number one. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to have financial peace. What is your definition?
Well, I think it's what we just talked about, just no debt, having the time to do, whatever we want, go on vacation, just sit and enjoy our home and our yard or whatever, garden. It's just something like where I can just breathe, like a sigh of, I have no worries in the world, because money is a huge worry for a lot of people. And I'm no different. I'm constantly calculating in my head, like, okay, this paycheck's going to get us this, how much money do we have left? Like, I don't want to think about that anymore. I just want to there's money coming in, passive income is flowing into us from our investments, from our real estate. Like, and I don't have to think about it. That's peace to me.
That is peace. And not many people have ever felt that. So
no, and it's very sad.
It is. But that's what this podcast is about, right? I want everyone to feel some form of financial peace. And it looks different for everyone. That's why I always ask that question, because financial peace for you is much different from someone else who's maybe not in the same position you are. Mm-hmm. So question number two, if there are listeners out there that want to start building wealth and have no clue where to get started, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to get a mentor, find someone who does know what they're, does know how to start, that can tell you. Like my husband, I had no idea where to start, and he was there to say, this is all you have to do. Pick up a book, it's just surround yourself with the same type of people who this is, I always struggle with the you are who you hang with thing, because I hung with not the the people I hung out with in high school were a little different than me, but I was nothing like them. And so I don't like that phrase very much, but it is true to an extent, especially when you are surrounding yourself with these people with the mindset that there's a lack of everything. Surround yourself with people who think there's an abundance of money, who think that, think outside the box of different ways to make money, and I think a mentor is that, just find someone, even if it's just an influencer on Instagram that, speaks to you, that says, this is the way to get there. Sometimes that's all you have, because you're surrounded by people who, unfortunately, this society has trained us to be worker bees, and just be in the rat race. If you want to get out of that rat race, you have to find like-minded people to surround yourself with, even if it is just social media.
I love that, Tara. I love that, because there's two aspects of a mentor, right? Not only are you getting the knowledge, but you're also getting the accountability. You're getting someone that's going to hold you to what you said you wanted to do and what you said you're going to do. And I think everybody needs some form of accountability, because it's so easy to let yourself down nowadays. So it's a lot heavier burden when you let someone else down. Mm-hmm. And that's what having a mentor really does. And I love the concept that you brought up, is like, if you don't have someone within arm's reach, whether it's a family member, a friend, like, you can use people on social media without trying to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Right.
A lot of people have that, where they want the life that someone else portrays on social media, but that's not all social media is, right? You have people like, I consider myself, like, I don't post all the flashy stuff. I post knowledge and content. And, I want my listeners to be able to listen to people like you who come on the podcast and learn like those little itty bitty things. And in a sense, that becomes your circle. And
I'm very grateful for the people on Instagram, in my financial Instagram. It's a totally different world. It's very refreshing to see all these people with the same goals and the same mindset and the same aspirations. Because if I look out in my social circles, I don't see a lot of that. And I sometimes I feel like, I have to bite my tongue, because I want to just like shake my friends and be like, you have to invest your money. Like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. And like, they don't care. And that's fine. I guess maybe they'll figure it out one day, and hopefully it won't be too late. But it's refreshing to see the same, these people, and to be able to have conversations about, things I'm excited about, because a lot of people don't care, so yeah, it's really good to have that.
Yeah, I've definitely, I can relate to that feeling of having the people you're surrounded by. It's like, listen, you can become a millionaire. Just listen to me, right?
Listen to me.
But
Mhm.
you have come to the understanding, which I have recently come to the understanding, especially with this podcast, is like, not many people really care, honestly. Not many people really care and are disciplined enough to execute what we are trying to do. And that's fine. That doesn't mean you can't be friends with them just because you guys
Right,
aren't on the same financial path, because you might have 100 other things in common with them, right?
right.
So yeah, that's something that I've had to learn myself, is like, you cannot force someone to want financial independence, right? It
No, yeah,
it almost becomes like, once you get there, then they might get interested, and then you can plant the seed. But that's all
right,
you can really do, is plant the seed. You can water it, but you cannot make it grow.
right. That's exactly right.
All right, Tara, third question. If there was one thing you could advise everyone to avoid doing to build wealth, what would that be?
Get rich quick schemes. I don't believe, yeah, I've said it before, sure, it happens. You hear those stories of, oh, I invested $1,000 in this crypto and now I'm a millionaire. Yeah, that's probably not going to be you. Um, you know, it, even these, like, even like the sports betting apps, I see these ads for sports betting, and I'm always kind of like, oh my God, like, don't put your money, like, that's not how you're going to get wealthy. Sure, you might win $100. You might play the lottery and win $10. You're probably not going to hit the jackpot. Um, it, it, it takes time, and you're not going to get rich overnight. You're just not. So you might get some money overnight, but you're not going to have a wealthy lifestyle where you can just be at peace.
Mm.
It's probably not going to happen. So yeah, that would be my biggest thing, is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So just don't listen to that noise, and focus on what will build you wealth. Even if it takes longer, it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah, and I love the saying. It's like, it's super duper easy to get rich, but it's hard to get wealthy.
Yeah.
And a part of being wealthy is retaining wealth. And the people who go bankrupt the most are athletes, entertainers, lottery winners, people who
Yes.
got rich without gaining financial literacy, or seeking professionals who have financial literacy. And so you don't want to be that person. And you
Right.
also don't want to be the person who operates on the possibility instead of the probability. The things we spoke about today, like, the probability of you gaining wealth over time is very, very, very high. When you see
Yeah.
a TikTok of someone saying, this is the new crypto, this is the new Bitcoin, right? The possibility of that actually happening is very small. It
Right.
might. People are making
Sure.
money off of it,
It could,
but
but you really want to bank on it?
it probably won't, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the
Right.
probability. So yeah, I love that. I I try my best to not be that get rich quick guy, because nothing that I talk about is get rich quick at all. Like, it's all about sacrifices, dedication, and being intentional with your money. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're kind of on the same wavelength with that.
Yeah, I compare it a lot. Like, I think of it like, people, this get rich quick is like a fad diet. People just want to take a pill and be skinny. You got to put the work in. You got to do the research. What works for your body type? It's the same concept. You can't just take a pill and boom, you're skinny. You can't just take a pill and boom, you're rich. You can't just, it takes the work. You got to put the work in.
Yeah, I love that, Tara. I love that. So if there's someone out there that doesn't believe they can reach financial peace, due to their age, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc., what would you say to change their mind?
I would say change your attitude. I mean, I'm big on manifestation and I'm not religious. I don't believe in God. I believe that the universe, it's energy. You put good energy out, you get good energy back. And I just think if you just change your attitude towards that, if you say I can't because I'm a woman or because I'm Black or whatever, no, I can. I can do this. Anyone can do this. It's about putting in the work and learning. And if you really want it, anyone, the universe doesn't discriminate. So if you have the right attitude and you put out the right vibes, you're going to get them back. And, if that's your goal, is to be wealthy, make it happen for yourself. It's that simple.
Yeah, I always say like your mindset is 90% of the work. If you can change your mindset, if you can tell yourself and actually believe like it is possible for me to achieve this, it's done.
Yeah.
Right? The steps are the steps, right? The steps aren't they're not they're not secrets, they're not these made up concepts. Like the steps are out there. All you have to do is change your mind and say like I can do this, and then the steps will follow. So
Right.
that's 90% of the work right there.
Yep.
Tara, this conversation was absolutely awesome. I got so much good information from it. Where can people find out more about you?
Oh, I'm on Instagram. My handle is invest, manifest, repeat. And that's pretty much where I live for this stuff.
Yeah, guys. And I will, of course, be linking her Instagram in the show notes. You guys can reach out to her, see all the amazing content that she is putting out, because that's how I got in contact with her. And I love the stuff she's putting out. It's great. It's great. And we need more people like you, Tara. We really do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, Tara, I'm going to get up out of here. I really hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope I can have you on in the future to not only check, because I want to know how close you are to paying off that rental property, and I want to know, where. Yeah, I want to update on this because this is awesome.
Okay, will do.
I really appreciate you coming on. And I hope you have a blessed rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Later. And guys, that was my interview with Tara. Like I said, guys, she has gone through such an amazing path that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate. She's really big into manifesting what you want. Ask and you shall receive. She talks about how she literally looked at this house, every single day and ended up buying it and living in it and getting what she wanted, all because she was proactive. She took some steps and she asked for what she wanted and she was willing to work for it. So I'm telling you guys, this is all repeatable things. And of course, guys, anyone can do these surveys, right? People are literally just paying you for your opinion, right? If you can get on social media for 2 hours a day and give people your opinion for free, then you can dedicate an hour, 2 hours a day completing these surveys and giving your opinion and getting paid for it. Take that money, use it to pay off debt, use it to invest. I mean, there's so many different things avenues you can do. So that was such a great tip from her. And I really hope people take advantage of that. And of course, I'm going to link a couple of her survey sites down in the show notes that if you guys want to start getting, paid to take these surveys, you can go and click the link in the show notes to start doing that and get that extra income. With that being said, guys, of course, I do still offer financial coaching sessions. I offer free consultations to, jump on a call with you and figure out if coaching is really for you, right? Maybe you just need a point in the right direction and the podcast is enough, but maybe you need someone that is, go along this journey with you and hold you accountable. So of course, I offer that down in the show notes. You can click on my Calendly link and find that. And of course, if you guys don't mind, whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you guys leave the podcast a rating. It helps this podcast so tremendously. You guys have absolutely no idea, right? So I really appreciate that. And of course, if you guys aren't subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you aren't following us on social media, make sure you guys go and do that today. But that's all for today's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I really hope you guys got a lot of value. My name is James Bowman. And always remember, you're only as secure as your ability to perform. So spend your life accumulating assets that can perform for you. Later, guys.